Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about a lot of updates on the situation in Syria and a couple of your questions. The situation there is developing quickly, and there are a lot of updates and some additional analysis that will be helpful in understanding how the region is fundamentally being reshaped. First, since this is about Syria and millions of refugees are hoping they can return home, let's talk about Syria. Instead of putting the priority on how it impacts the games the world powers play. It really looks like so far, the successful rebel factions and remnants of the Assad state are putting in a good faith effort to secure a relatively stable and peaceful transfer of power. That's good news. Let's hope the trend holds. The new interim prime minister says getting refugees who fled the country home is a top priority. But there's still a lot of fear among various ethnic groups about what type of government will emerge. There is fighting among the factions in northern Syria, particularly between Turkish-aligned groups and Kurdish groups. As a quick aside, there were a number of questions about whether the country should just break up, since there are so many rebel groups. There's some sense in it, but the country's resources are not evenly distributed and might create situations for intense fighting over those resources. So in the end, that's a question for the Syrian people. How is Russia handling this? Not well. Russia is trying to find some way to maintain their port access and a military airbase. There are indications that they are moving assets out of the area, maybe with hopes of returning. Currently, chances of that look dim, but you never know what tomorrow will bring. This is a big blow to Russian influence in the region and might even impact Russia's strategy in Africa. Okay, what's Iran saying? Frankly, the last few months have been as devastating to Iranian force projection capabilities as the loss of NATO would be to the U.S. That being said, Iran's public statements have been pretty much limited to encouraging respect for Syria's territorial integrity and expressing willingness to reach out to the new government. Behind closed doors, Iranian military officials are engaged in a blame game over the fall of Assad. They're probably trying to stake out their new internal political turf as well. But we don't have any reporting on that. What about the U.S.? The U.S. has a couple of key things going on. Most importantly, the U.S. has indicated it will support the new Syrian government if 4 conditions are met. Those are respect for the rights of minorities, the facilitation of humanitarian assistance, the prevention of Syria from being used as a base for non-state actors hitting other countries or posing a threat to its neighbors, and securing and safely destroying any chemical weapons stockpiles. At the same time, the U.S. maintains it will continue its operations against IS and seems to want to support the Kurds. The wild cards here are Israel and Turkey. Israel is throwing a wrench into everybody's plan with a series of strikes and land seizures. Some of the strikes were reportedly targeting chemical weapon facilities or storage sites. None of the major powers would have cared about that much. Nobody really wants anything Assad had along those lines falling into the wrong hands. However, they also hit Syrian military capabilities. They basically sank the entire Syrian Navy and hit numerous military sites. The new government might need those resources to establish governmental functions. Their loss increases the chance of catastrophic success. The land seizures might end up creating a friction point for future conflicts depending on how they play out. Turkey seems to be supportive of the provisional government and is throwing its own wrenches by publicly opposing Israel's moves while simultaneously hitting Kurdish facilities inside Syria. There is reporting that Turkish-aligned groups in Syria are advancing on the Kurdish town of Kobani. So, that gets you up to date. Let's hope these updates stay relatively boring. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.